it was this vicious cycle, right? Of going to a new place, everything's great, but then the problems just started to show up. I realized that this can't go on like that. It will happen again wherever I go until I look at what is really going on. And I was so sad, so lonely, and so depressed. I remember laying in my bed, listening to Nirvana, and thinking, why am I even here? What if I just kill myself? What if I just leave? And for the first time ever, because it was an everyday struggle, right? So for the first time in such a long time, I was just walking carefree around. Not a thought of, oh, that bread over there. Oh, that curry over there. No. I'm happy. I'm just content.
Welcome to Plant-Based Stories, where we cover transformations of people who follow the plant-based lifestyle. And in this episode, I have an incredible guest. Her name is Sabrina, and she's gone through a very deep transformation on a plant-based journey, overcome binge eating, and just completely changed her whole mindset about life in general. Hi, Sabrina. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Joe, and thank you so much for having me. I was so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. You're just literally glowing.
Thank you so much.
So let's just begin with where you were before you came across a plant-based lifestyle. What was going on in your life and how were things?
Before I came across the plant-based lifestyle, that's many years ago. That is 10 years ago, right? I've been vegan for 10 years and I haven't eaten any animal flesh for 15 years now. So I became a vegetarian in 2008. And let me just tell you straight away, I have never liked eating meat. I have always found it to be gross, even as a small kid. When we were sitting as a family at the table and there would be meat served, I would always be like, and the grandparents and stuff, they would be like, oh, come on, don't be like that, don't behave like that. And so I kind of always just, suck it up and ate it, but I never really liked it. What I was heavy on was the milk. I was always drinking a lot of milk. I was eating a lot of chocolate. So I wasn't healthy. That's for sure. I wasn't overweight, but I wasn't healthy either. When I look back, I was sick a lot. I had the flu a lot. I had the cold a lot. And I wasn't happy either. I was never really the most happy child. And of course, now with my journey unfolding and everything, I know what it was. But the food was more like, has always been a buffer for me and my emotions. It has always, when I look back now, I always say the food has been there for me, right? It has given me comfort, always. I've been a latchkey kid, so I've always been kind of alone at home. And food was always there, right? Candy was always there. And that's kind of where my story really began with the disordered eating, because I always, instead of seeking comfort with my primary caregivers, I always went to the food. So I wouldn't say that I was like heavily disordered in my eating patterns back then, but I wasn't healthy either, So in 2008, I finally decided that I will no longer eat meat because I never really liked it anyway. And then I had my own flat and I decided what, went on my plate really. So I said, no more meat for me. I still had a lot of cheese and milks and all of those things. But that really went away when I started reading one book. One book changed it all for me. And it was Jonathan Safran Foer, Eating Animals, where he described the brutal things that were going on in those slaughterhouses. And after that, I was just like, no more for me. And yeah, that changed it all.
Amazing. So when you made that decision to go fully plant-based, fully vegan, the eating behavior came with you, even though you'd eliminated some food. So what was that journey like? What happened next?
Well, looking back now, I see that I made one big mistake by going plant-based. Not by going plant-based, but I made one mistake going plant-based, and that was cutting out carbs. I went into the high fat, high protein vegan when I first got into it. And that would leave me very hungry and very depleted of carbohydrates, our natural fuel, right? So I stuck to this kind of diet that was low on carbs probably for a few months until I felt this hunger, this real hunger for carbs, for life, right? And so that's when it really started, that I had these moments of, I need this, but am I really allowed to have this? It was this restrictive kind of mindset of going back and forwards between restricting and then, no, but I need the carbs, right? But I can't have so many carbs, but I need the carbs. So it was right there, it already had started to be this thing back and forth. Yeah, exactly, like a pendulum. I swung back and forth. And man, that was already really, really bad. And that's actually, interestingly enough, that's when I really started gaining weight, when I went vegan.
Well, if people are led, there's no magical diets, but if people are led into a diet in an unhealthy way, they're going to get unhealthy results. What led you into this fat-based vegan lifestyle? What was it that drove you into that?
I actually, when I first went vegan, I came across a cookbook by a German author that was very popular back then. And he promoted this diet, right? There was a lot of tofu and a lot of almond spread. How do you call it? Almond butter, exactly. A lot of those things, right? And he was low on the carbs. And I read the book and the recipes. I mean, it was tasty, right? It was very tasty. A lot of salt, a lot of spices. So that what's really got me into it.
Yeah, and the thing is that what I want to say to that is that all of these ways of eating a plant-based diet can work. It's just whether or not they work for you. And one of the things I find with this whole movement is that there's such a strong prescription on how to eat that it kind of removes an ability to find out for yourself what works for your life. So you're now on a plant-based diet and you're yo-yoing between certain foods. What was going on there?
Let me backtrack just a little bit by saying I didn't know back then what I do know now, obviously, right? I didn't know back then how essential carbs are if you are an active person or just a living human being in general, right? I didn't know any of that. I was kind of going into veganism and not really knowing anything about nutrition. I was just like, okay, what can I eat now? Here's this book. It was kind of my crutch, right? It was kind of, I was going into veganism with that crutch. And I'm still super grateful for that because it led me into this beautiful lifestyle, which is just so amazing. But I think it was there that for the first time, I really understood the grip that food had on me. And maybe that is very natural if you cut out carbs that you feel that way. But for me, it was like very distinctive. It was almost like I became this ravenous animal that was like, oh my God, where's the food? Where I need this, I need that. And it was always back and forth. And it was very detrimental, right? For my mental health, it was very bad. For my physical health, it was very bad. I didn't really have any ailments that I could say like, oh, I have this or that, but I didn't feel great. I know now I wasn't in my full potential back then. And I had a lot of personal things also going on with relationships and stuff that were very unhealthy. So on many levels in my life, I didn't really take care of myself well because at that time, I did not have the consciousness to know better. I just didn't.
Right. So in relating your story to my own at this point is I was binge eating profusely before on animal products, and I carried on binge eating on plant-based products. But the difference was the harm I was doing was reduced. It still wasn't perfect. It still wasn't healthy, but it was much less healthy, me having binges on potatoes and whatever versus binging what I was doing before, which was junk animal food. So I felt safer, but I was still, I'm sure you felt a bit frustrated as well, that it's like, I'm not in control, but at least I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I definitely felt a shift from not getting as sick as often anymore. So there was a change in health in that regard, 100%. But when was it? 2015, 2013, when I went vegan, right? And there was a lot of processed vegan foods coming in at the time. Like, oh, this is vegan now. Oh, you can have that vegan now. So I was going to all those high processed foods. I was just like, well, I'm vegan, right? It must be healthy. Well, I had to realize that that is not the case. You can be vegan and you can be very unhealthy if you eat those high processed foods, especially if you binge on them regularly, like I did, right? And so, yeah, I definitely saw an increase in my waistline. And it became harder and harder to not gain weight. Back then, though, I have to say, I didn't even realize at the beginning that I was binging. I didn't know it was a thing, right? I was just like, I need this food. I don't really quite understand why, but I'm like, I must just be hungry or something. So weird. So
What was the heaviest that you got to?
the heaviest was right when I got to your place. It was 80 kilograms.
80 kilograms. And what do you weigh now? If you don't mind me
50.
asking.
Yeah, no worries. No, I weigh 57 kilograms now.
That's a huge amount. That's huge. So during your binge eating time, I think what a lot of people misunderstand is when you go through binge eating, there is the one who is vegan, who is really enjoying a vegan diet. And then there's the binge that, for me, would be out of control in certain areas. Eventually, I stopped slipping up, as I might call it, on non-plant-based foods. Was you doing that as well?
Slipping up on non-plant.
Going to animal foods during binges.
I have never eaten any animal flesh since 2008, so I've never went back to that on my binges. What I did have was like some ice cream here and there. There was milk in it and some chocolate here and there. And I have to say, I totally agree with you. When I was on some of my, I call them binging episodes almost, it's almost like something shifted. I felt like I am controlled by something. It was not me really making those decisions anymore, because there was still this voice in my head that was like, no, we're not going to do this. Oh yeah, we are going to do this now. Right? Very powerful, very aggressive, like almost very threatening, right? And that it felt very, I felt very powerless, not in control at all. And so I regret going back to non-plant-based foods during those binges, but it is what it is.
But you regret afterwards. At the time, there isn't anybody there. That's what it felt like for me. But what I would add is my decision to start moving towards a vegan diet. It helped me in so many ways, because when I was going off my vegan plan as well as going off my food plan, it made me feel so bad that eventually I was like, right, I'm just going to make this the rigid line as possible. It took quite a while, maybe a year and a half, really solidify that. But once it was solidified, it never broke again. And I feel that is the benefit when you are having binge eating issues, is this external factor that going vegan, it brings in another entity, which is the animal. When you're just not caring about that, you're binging, it's just you, and you don't care about yourself anyway at that point. So bringing in that other creature to be there as also a victim to this affliction helped me. What do you think about that?
I think that is absolutely correct. I almost felt at some point that I had to make a pact with that voice in my head that was controlling me at those binge eating times. A pact that said, whatever, we can we can binge, whatever. I know it's going to happen again, but let's not do that. Let's not go there. There's so much vegan stuff out there, right? That is tasty, that is high processed. You can have all of that. Let's stick to that. Let's not cross that line because, like you said, right, it's ethically so wrong, right? And I knew that. I went vegan for the animals. So it was very heartbreaking for me that even happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautifully expressed. I'm so glad we both did it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Right.
100%.
So obviously you was in this situation where I believe that you was in quite a bleak place when you made the decision to come out to Thailand to
Yeah.
explore this more deeply. How bleak did it get?
Well, when I decided to go to Thailand, that was 2015, I was so fed up with my life back home because I had a very bad relationship behind me that was physically, my partner was physically aggressive towards me. That left a wound that I never really wanted to look at, that left me in so much deep pain that I wanted to run from my home. I've never really felt like I could tell anyone about the pain that I was feeling. So I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand and I went traveling. I thought maybe I'll find myself there, right? And I did eventually, spoiler. But I had to realize very quickly one thing. I can't just leave my problems at home. Wherever I go, I'll take them with me, right? And that showed up. Yeah, that showed up when I was traveling. At first I was like well-behaved binge-wise while I was traveling because I was happy. Everything was new. It was great. It was amazing, right? Meeting new people. Everything is just like, whoa. But then I felt lonelier and lonelier. I was like, okay. And then I went to the one thing that always was there for me, food. So I started binging there. And then I was like, oh no, I took the binge to this place. I moved on, went to another country. Everything was great again. Then the binge came again. It was this vicious cycle, right? Of going to a new place, everything's great, but then the problems just started to show up. And at one point in Australia, when I was working there on an apple farm, I realized that this can't go on like that. It will happen again wherever I go until I look at what is really going on. And I was so sad, so lonely, and so depressed. I remember laying in my bed, listening to Nirvana, and thinking, why am I even here? All that I am is sad. I'm wearing this mask. No one sees it, or no one wants to see it. I don't know, but no one really asked me. So why am I here? I'm pretending to be happy, but I'm so broken and sad and just so wounded inside that I didn't see really any reason to go on. Like, why? For who? For what? Right? And as I was there in my bed, I contemplated ending my life. So it was very, very bad. And I had this moment. It almost seemed like there was a ray of sunshine crossing my heart in that moment when I let the thought happen. What if I just kill myself? What if I just leave? Right? And then there was this thing, this sparkle, this little glimpse, shimmer of hope that said to me, and I remember it so clearly, even all those years later. Try it one more time. Give it your all. Give it your best. If it doesn't work, you can leave. And it still gives me goosebumps years later thinking about that moment. And I quit on the apple farm the next day. I went to Brisbane. I contacted you. You said, yes, you can come. I booked the ticket to Thailand. And I think 1 week later, I was there. Luckily for me, my God, that saved my life. It did. It really did.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know because you didn't. That's not when you arrived here. You didn't tell me that, obviously.
Yeah.
So, wow. So you arrived at the house, and what happened next?
I arrived at the house. I think 3 days earlier, I had my last binge. So I arrived there. I felt very much at home right away. It was, that shimmer of hope that I had. It just led me to all the right places. And
Right.
that right place was your place at the moment for me. So I went there. Everyone was just so happy and so open. I almost was like, is this real? It felt very strange to me, right?
But that's what was funny about that period in my life is I opened up this house and I was the worst. Like I was the fattest and I was the most binge eatery, and I found it the hardest to stick to the program. And I just think that it's like supporting from underneath rather than in some other way. Anyway, everyone contributed to your recovery. But how did it start to show up in your life when you were like going around doing your things in Chiang Mai and stuff like that? How did it? What did you notice about your behaviors that changed?
It started right away on the first day when I think I had a talk with you, and we talked about how to eat consciously, how to notice if you are really hungry, how to notice if you are really full, and can you eat without any distractions? Because what I would usually do when I binge, watch something. Like I never just sat there and binged and looked into nature. No. I watched something, obviously, right? So like high stimulation on every corner, right? But then on the first day, I just sat there on the table. I had this little sheet of paper and I was noticing how hungry I am. I was noticing what I'm eating. I said, okay, I'm eating this now. Very consciously, right? And then I would notice when I'm full. And I remember the first day I was sitting there, I was like, wow, I didn't really need that much food to get full, right? I was satiated and happy and just, felt great after, I don't know, a few mangoes or papaya or whatever. excuse me. And so that changed so quickly for me that I realized how to listen to my body. And that was a crucial part of my journey, to really tune into what I want, what I need, and what's best for me. So that changed so quickly. And then I remember one night, maybe after the first week or so, I was in my living room upstairs and I was like, let me try on this one pan that I didn't fit in for such a long time. And I just pulled this pan out, and I have a photo or a video somewhere of it. Maybe I can even find it and we can put it in. I don't know. Where I put on the pans, and I was able to close them, and I was like the happiest person in my life, right? I was just like jumping around in my room. I was like, this is working. So those physical changes happened so quickly because I left out all the junk and I ate so healthy that my body was just shedding. It was just shedding everything. And emotionally also, I was just shedding for the first few days and weeks. It was hard at times, right? I was just laying on my bed and crying and just feeling, actually allowing myself to feel. Because why did I allow myself there to feel those feelings? Because I knew that there is a net of people that can, catch me in case that I needed to be caught. So I felt just, it was just a very exceptional experience for me to heal in that way. And I think it went on for like a few weeks before I even felt like I wanted to leave the house. So I was still cautious the first weeks. Can I handle going out to all those places in Chiang Mai, seeing all those restaurants where I used to go? Can I handle it? But I don't know if it was after 2 months or so that I went out for the first time, and I went through the streets and I walked around and I was just smiling because I don't need you right now. I don't need to go in there right now. I'm so happy. Yeah, it's great. The most liberating feeling. If you struggle with such a beast for so long, and for the first time ever, because it was an everyday struggle, right? So for the first time in such a long time, I was just walking carefree around. Not a thought of, oh, that bread over there. Oh, that curry over there. No, no, no. I'm happy. I'm just content. And that, oh man, amazing.
Oh,
Just amazing, really.
do you remember that time when I set you that exercise to go into town and
Yeah,
stay?
yeah.
How was that?
That was so interesting because I stayed right in the center of, of where all the binging places were for me, right in the center. And I think I chose that very consciously to see, am I ready for that? Because I knew I could just come back to your place at any time, right? Same thing, carefree, no problem. Nope, really. I was just happy. I couldn't even fathom it myself back then, but I was just very content. Just so
Amazing.
content. Yeah.
I didn't expect we'd be speaking about my house, but now it seems obvious we would because that's where you came to. But
Yeah.
what I felt was that I'd been in centres before, and they keep you basically incarcerated, and all of your problems go away, and you stop binge eating, and you lose 50 pounds. But some of these places, as soon as I come out, I'd be binging at the train station.
Yeah.
And I thought, if people come to my house to go for this program, I want them involved in their life. I want them out and about so they get to train themselves against real obstacles, real. So you was at the house, and at some point you'd had such a great transformation already then, and you've even transformed even more since then. At some point you decided, I'm ready to leave the house. What happened after you went back into regular living?
Well, I remember traveling around Thailand a bit after leaving your house. And I was like, this feels different because I knew because I was on Koh Chang then, and I knew I'm not able to just go back to your house within minutes. So for the first few days and weeks, I felt a little, can I do it? Like a little uncertain if I really am strong enough. But I was. I proved that I was. I the what was very important for me to really stay content and happy was keeping my daily routines that I had in your house, keeping them and still doing them. So taking them with me. So I did yoga every day in the morning for an hour. I did some meditation. I wrote in my journal. So all of that self-love and really caring and just really being there for me, just emotionally, mentally reflecting on things that are going maybe not so well right now, but things that are really going well right now. So that really helped me a lot. And I think that's what ultimately helped me overcoming this uncertainty of not knowing, oh, can I really do this here? But I did, with every day, every little step, I did it. So there was this uncertainty, yes, but it was fine. I managed, and I'm still managing 7 years later. Well, I'm not managing. I'm doing great. I have no problem. Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be so touched by this story. I've never heard it from this. It's amazing. I'm so grateful that that you're sharing this with me. So now you're traveling around Thailand, and some point you left Thailand. What
Yeah.
happened next? How did your life unfold?
Yeah, I went home to see my family, right? Went back to Germany. And there was another hurdle that I had to overcome, kind of. It felt like it, okay, home, right? Where all of the things that I ran from still were, right? It was still, everything was like it was before. It was like almost I've never left. And I quickly realized one other very crucial thing. I can't change people. I only can change myself. And if I'm not happy with the people that I surround myself with, instead of trying to change them, why don't I just gracefully leave, And that's what I had to learn more and more. Stepping out of people pleasing, eating what they serve me, not being able to say no, stepping into, this is me now, I'm healthy now, I can say no. I can even say no in a very friendly manner and just sit there, enjoy my food. They don't have to accept it. It's my journey, and that's the most important for me. I I really learned to be there for myself on every level of my life. And a few months later, I actually came back to Thailand where I met my husband, my now husband, right? We met in 2000, was it 16 then? Or was it already 17? I don't know. But we met, and yeah, he was vegan, perfect match, right? And we got married in 2020, and we had a beautiful son in 2021, which is a whole different story in itself. I don't know if I should go into that. You can decide on that. Um, but I have to say, did I have hard moments in my life from then until now? Yes, I had. Did I ever binge again? No, I never did binge again. Did I have moments where I overate? Yes, I had those moments where I overate, especially in like emotionally challenging times, or when I didn't make the time to do my yoga or do my journaling. I always feel like that's when I'm not well taken care of. I feel that the tendencies to go back to food are still kind of lingering, but they are not a threat. They are not a threat at all to me. I just know how to handle those lingering feelings now. So I have to make sure that I'm there for myself in challenging times. And I had to learn to really talk about my feelings and really talk to people. Look for one or two people in my life where I know I can call them in the middle of the night crying and be like, man, I'm hurt right now. I need you, so that I don't deal with everything myself. That was a crucial part in my journey.
Amazing. So what I sometimes share with people about plant-based journey is people think it's about food, but it's more about the letting go of all of what you've been using to hold up this character. And this could be a quite a wounded character. So when you let go of these food props, you become more exposed, and then you basically have to find new ways of being with them, and that's the healing.
Yeah.
And for you, it was connecting with people, doing your yoga, journaling, and creating this formula that helps you process your daily emotions in a way that doesn't involve food. And the benefit is you lose weight.
Yes. And you get healthy. Yeah.
You get healthy, but that is such it's what people always put first, but it's actually the smallest part, because it's really this getting to know yourself on a deep level. And the plant-based lifestyle, it just pulls you out into a place where you like, now let's see how you are without your, what do you think about that?
I think that is very true. I mentioned earlier that I had this very bad relationship occurrence where there was like physical interactions that were really bad. And I, now looking back and looking at the pictures that I have where I was really big, right? I realized that I put on all this weight to save myself from ever experiencing that again. Because what happened when I put on all this weight? I didn't want to date anyone. I didn't want to be with anyone. It was the greatest excuse to not be with anyone but myself and just eat. So I was really eating my feelings, and it showed up on the outside.
It's been absolutely wonderful to hear from you. I didn't realize I'd be so touched by your story. And I'm so happy to see how flourishing your life is right now. And there's always issues, but at least what I say to myself is, yes, it's bad, but at least I'm eating a plant-based diet.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, of course, I'm a mom, right? I have stressful days. I have hard days. And sometimes I wake up from a night, there wasn't a lot of sleep, right? But at least I'm taking care of myself now. At least I'm not harming the animals. I'm nourishing my body. Every cell of my body gets nourished with these beautiful foods. And let's just face it, eating a plant-based diet is the most beautiful way you can eat, right? It's so beautiful. It's so
It's I don't even know why people need to be persuaded. It's like
I
you have really colourful plates. You can eat a lot of food. It's
I know.
really tasty. There's so much variety. Just
Yeah.
to make on the point you said there, when I was binging, the comedy that I sometimes use now if I work with people is like you're having a bad day, and when you're binging, you're having a bad day, so you hit yourself with a rubber mallet as well to try and make it better.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like when you're having a bad day on a plant-based diet, you tend to like go and lie down, go and maybe get some air, drink some water, have a watermelon, go, well, I can go and have a durian, right? So
Yeah.
that you're still using something, but it's a harmless use.
Exactly.
Call them antidotes. They're non-harmful antidotes. Where a harmful antidote is to go and eat a burger, a
Never.
non-harmful antidote is to make a juice and do some yoga.
Exactly.
So
That's the healthy way of regulating your overstimulated nervous system, right? That just needs a hug. And you're
yeah,
hugging yourself with nature or a durian or, whatever beautiful thing you can hug yourself with, but
yeah.
you're not hammering yourself with this
You're
nonsensical
exactly,
thing.
exactly. Well, as I said, it's great to see you again. You're completely flourishing, and I wish you continued transformation on your journey.
Thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me. It was a huge pleasure.